Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of the EFL Magazine Business Podcast. Today's episode is episode 7 of season 2, and today's guest is Herbert Gerzer. Herbert is originally from Australia, now living in Austria, and according to Herbert's bio, he's had the privilege of working in the language training industry for over 13 years. First as an English trainer, then a key account manager, personally selling over 2 million euros of language courses to corporate clients and managing a teaching team of over 120 language and business trainers in 3 countries. Now he's transferred that knowledge to help language schools attract new customers and sell more language courses through paid ad campaigns. I had a great chat with Herbert about his background, about Facebook ads, Instagram ads, best practice for your business, whether that be bricks and mortar or online. I hope you get a lot of value from this podcast.
Hey everyone, buckle up for a new episode of the EFL Magazine Business Podcast, the one and only podcast made to help you launch your business or take your existing business to a level of success you could never have imagined. Whether you're a school owner, freelancer, publisher, or other entrepreneur, you're sure to pick up lots of actionable advice when you listen to the EFL Magazine Business Podcast. Remember to visit eflmagazine.com for great articles and features. Without further ado, here's your host, the founder of EFL Magazine, Philip Pound.
Welcome back, everybody, to the EFL Magazine Business Podcast. And it's my great pleasure today from beautiful Salzburg, Austria, to introduce Herbert Gerzer, who's the founder of Herbert Gerzer. Is that the name of your company as well? That's the name of your website?
Yes, it's just my name.
Okay.
HerbertGerzer.com.
You founded yourself. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you tell me a little bit about life in Austria now, post lockdown, or how things are coming along.
I mean, things are pretty normal here, to be honest with you. We got out of lockdown, I think, in April, May, and yeah, everything's been great since. Had a long hot summer, which is always good here since it rains quite often in Salzburg. And now, as I look out the window, it is cold and rainy. So autumn is here.
Autumn is here. Yeah. Well, living here in Tokyo, autumn is the best time. Spring and autumn are just so good and so temperate, and the light is just beautiful, and the leaves turning red and brown. And summer is over. The hell has finished. Yeah, of the summers here in Tokyo.
It's very sticky in Tokyo in summer. I remember being there in August once, and it was quite unbearable.
Yeah,
running around the city.
It is unbearable. Yeah, I think I went to Taipei I think it was August, and I think Taipei is definitely worse. It's okay. Like walking around humidity. In the sauna. Yeah, the humidity is unbelievable. So small mercies. So your company, Herbert Gerzer, tell me a little bit. You're a digital advertising agency, is that correct? But I'm sure it encompasses a lot more than that.
Actually, no.
Okay.
We really specialize. we focus on advertising for language schools and education businesses. So we basically create, manage, and optimize paid advertising campaigns for education businesses to recruit more students for their courses and programs.
Bingo. That's the big word, isn't it? That's what all language schools want, is to get more students, isn't it?
Exactly.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what got you to... So we'll talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Obviously, you have a lot of expertise to impart to the listeners who are maybe language school owners and entrepreneurs in teaching.
Sure.
So how did you get here? What's your own journey?
Right. So I actually grew up in Australia. Although I'm half Austrian, can be quite confusing. So I came to Austria about 14 years ago. My German wasn't very good. So really the only job that I could find and get was as an English teacher. So I started at Berlitz one of the big network language school companies. Worked there as a business English teacher for a couple of years. I then got a position as the local manager of instruction for that school. And then I switched to a different language school where I went into sales, so corporate sales, selling language courses to large companies such as Red Bull, Swarovski, Miele, and Bosch. And then at that same language school, they needed some help with online marketing to promote their English camps and also language programs. And I had some experience running paid ads before, so I put up my hand and I helped them out, and it worked. And I really enjoyed that part of the business. And I kind of saw a gap in the market, or a real pain point for a lot of language schools when it comes to online marketing, and thought, hey, I think I could specialize in this, and I don't see any other company doing this. I mean, that there are 2 or 3 competitors, but it's a small market. So I decided 3 years ago to start a digital advertising agency to help language schools and education businesses with online marketing.
Okay, and your website is herbertgerzer.com, HerbertGerzer.com.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know, the way Americans say herb instead of herb, they don't say Herbert instead of Herbert, but I don't know why that just came into my head, but there you go. I got in contact with you, Herbert, through Nicola Lutz, as you know.
Yes, of course.
Lovely well.
Nicola.
Nicola, yes. And Nicola recommended that I contact you, said Herbert's a great guy, and I think he's a lot of interesting information. And I said, give me that name again. I can't spell that. So I wrote it down. And so the reason why I mentioned Nicola is, apart from Nicola being such a great person and a great guest on the podcast as well, was you first started out in sales. So was it consultancy sales? And tell me a little bit about starting out in sales and selling, over the phone or person to person, making presentations to bigger companies.
Absolutely. I mean, back then, I talk as if this was like 10 years ago. It was literally only maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But it was a lot of manual work, the traditional forms of outreach. It was sending cold emails. It was cold calling companies and trying to get through to their HR manager or training and learning manager. It was going to face-to-face meetings, preparing presentations, and following up and nurturing those prospects for a long time. I mean, as you probably know, when it comes to B2B sales, leads don't turn into customers for 3, 6, 12, 18 months. So you really have to be on top of things and make sure that you're nurturing them.
Okay, yeah. So that you anticipated one of my questions, which was the sales cycle, or what they call the sales gestation period. But that's another term I've heard. But okay, so tell me, for people who are thinking about hitting the phones, or they have a staff that they're training on telesales. So how many calls would you make? How many, phone calls, emails, how many responses? So what was the kind of conversion? Was it about 2% in the end, or where did that come?
Let me think back. To be completely frank with you, cold calling, I don't know anyone who likes cold calling. Some people like that kind of the adrenaline rush, but it definitely wasn't my favorite thing to do. But it's got to be done right. And just thinking of the very beginning, kind of jumping into cold water and picking up the phone in German, in my second language, was very difficult. So I would say the conversion rate was actually quite high because the school that I worked for had a very good reputation. So it wasn't like a new business, so to say. And they already had excellent references and customers that, we could fall back on and say, hey, we already do language courses for XYZ. So yeah, it was a lot easier than starting from scratch.
Yeah, certainly. It was something I was going to mention. The Berlitz name is it's well known worldwide, here in Tokyo as well. And I think Berlitz, when this is one thing I talked about with Nicola, was a question you could pose to a client would be, what do you know about our company? So what do you think people don't know about Berlitz? So what do I know about Berlitz from what I've heard? So they've got a very structured system, for the teachers, don't they? They have, and from what I understand from students, it's maybe one of the more expensive options in the market. It's quite high-end cost, isn't it, compared to other providers here in Tokyo, for example. That's the word on the street is. But besides those two things, what else should we know about Berlitz?
Sure. Sorry, Philip. I actually was in sales for a different language school because I moved to a different language school. So
gotcha.
I wasn't doing sales for Berlitz.
Sorry.
I was only a teacher and a manager there.
Okay.
What you just said about Berlitz, absolutely true. Very, very structured, very maybe inflexible when it comes to the teaching method, because you have to use their direct method or the Berlitz method. But it has the name, right? And it's a good name. They have an excellent reputation. They have market penetration and brand awareness. So I can assume that for their salespeople, selling courses to companies, that of course it can be easier. But it's a double-edged sword, being around for so long. Maybe they lack innovation. Maybe they're slower to adopt new technology, new methods, etc.
Okay. So for somebody selling, you sold into the corporate space, was it, for business training? So you mentioned already some of your clients, Red Bull, Miele, who else did you mention? These were the
Swarovski, Bosch.
Swarovski, of course, and Bosch, that you mentioned. So, what once you first contact these companies, there might be a few objections and why, and the reason why the sales cycle might be that length. They might already have an existing supplier.
Sure. There really only are a couple of kind of objections. The first and kind of the main one is that they already have a provider. I mean, most medium to large size companies have a service provider for language training. And so it's a bit of timing and luck is involved to catch them at the right time. But in order to catch them at the right time, you've got to be contacting them and communicating with them consistently. So that's one of them. The second one is timing. So usually for medium to large size company, they kind of have semesters, so to say, where they start their corporate training and end their corporate training. That's usually, they start in February, March, up until June, July, the summer period, and then from mid-September, October onwards until the end of the year. So, kind of being aware of that cycle is very important. And that can vary, of course, with different markets and different companies. And then I guess the third is the budget, that they don't have a training budget. Most medium-sized to large-sized companies have that. But if you're maybe going for smaller companies, then they might not have allocated some money towards training.
Why would a company not want to renew with an existing provider?
Definitely quality. Feedback from the participants about the teachers, possibly even about the organization of the courses, customer service. There are always those kinds of issues that arise. but also possibly even a change in strategy, a change of contact person. So maybe they got a new HR manager or a new learning and development manager that kind of wants to shuffle things up and get rid of the provider they've had for 5, 10, 15 years and bring in some new ideas, new kind of fresh innovations. So yeah, again, it's a bit of timing and a bit of luck, and being persistent.
Yeah, and that timing is very important, isn't it, in sales? And we can like you actually brought back a very bad memory for me. I was working in a company, and I think I was working there for about 2.5 years, a recruitment company, and I had been, well, we would say, pursuing a building company that was a construction company. And the HR manager who I was dealing with, they wouldn't use our services. They used another company. Then they were, this was online recruitment. They used recruiters, and then they tried newspapers. And then what happened was I was keeping in contact. They got a new HR manager who actually I dealt with at a previous company, because, they all move around.
Of course. Yeah.
And that person, I'd been out of contact for 3 months. And the rule in the company was, if you don't contact the company within 3 months, it's free for everybody to contact, which I hated that rule. Somebody called in, somebody took the phone and said, oh, these guys want to sign up for an annual contract. So there you go. So that can happen as well. I mean, it can come to our advantage. Yeah. Swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the thing. So 3, 12, 6, 18 months. So I kind of got the order wrong there, but yeah, I was kind of jumping forward and back. So staying in touch. So other than, let's say, having a phone call every month and say, how is your training? Are you interested in talking again? Is there anything else we can do to stay in contact with customers to nurture that relationship?
I mean, I remember that we offered workshops for HR, for the HR industry, also for HR managers and the learning and development managers. Either one for them to improve their skills, for example, English for HR. I think that's a nice little goodie. And for them to get a bit of a taster as to what a course, a workshop, a seminar would look like. That was quite effective. So even for prospects, as well as existing customers, and then they would all come together and they would mingle, of course, and chat. Leads and existing customers, which is always a good thing. If you have satisfied customers and then they act as referrals in a live event. I don't that might or might not be possible where you are at the moment. I mean, that can also take place online as an online workshop or webinar. So those were some good lead gen tools and some nurturing tools to use.
Okay, so let's talk. You worked mainly in Austria, was it? Did you work outside? Did you, like Austria, elsewhere?
Austria and Bavaria, so okay. And kind of South Tyrol, so that area.
Okay. Okay, so I was going to ask a question about sales cycles and differences in culture.
Sure.
But well, is there much difference in culture from? Well, I mean, people think that Austrians are kind of more laid back, a little bit more so than let's say. And I think from what I know, let's say Northern Germans are more and the Bavarians are a little bit more relaxed as well. Is that right, or am I completely wrong? That's what Germans tell me.
Pretty good assumption, Philip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of goes in that order. Like the North Germans are the most formal. Bavarians are less formal than the North Germans, and Austrians are less formal than the Bavarians. So yes, it is. I mean, coming from Australia, where everything's pretty laid back. Thank goodness that I was in Austria. I'm not a stickler for formality. For example, we didn't wear suits, or we don't wear suits in Austria to sales meetings. I mean, like a blazer and good dark jeans. But very quickly, if you start up the conversation correctly and you build rapport, then you can quickly go from the formal way of speaking in German to the informal way. So using du, so like that colloquial you. Whereas in Germany, that's a no-go. Like you would always use the polite and formal expressions.
Okay, but you still have to say Herr Doctor. Is that right? In Austria, or can you address somebody by their first name? Is that?
Well, no. I mean, the first meeting, they kind of have to offer it to you. But usually, again, we're more laid back here. We like to do duzen, they say, to use the informal you. So you have to kind of wait until your partner, your speaking partner, offers that to you. But usually it is quite quickly if you build some rapport.
Okay, and you know you're getting somewhere if that happens. It's a marker of rapport building, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a little bit about your sales career. So then you noticed the company was doing some social media, digital marketing, and did you put yourself forward for that role not knowing so much, or had you done some digital marketing before that?
So I had some experience doing paid ads before for a private project, and so that's why I kind of put my hand up, because I like the digital space and I like being creative. So I thought it was a great fit and help them out. And yeah, it was a success. We enrolled a lot of people for their camps, and that kind of sparked an idea to branch out and go off for myself.
So a lot of bigger companies, they think they know a lot about digital marketing. Maybe it's the fact that the people are a little bit out of date. So maybe the managers, directors are kind of my age, like 40s, 50s age. And while we might know a little bit about email and email marketing, maybe Snapchat and TikTok we're not so au fait with. And maybe it's the fact that, the whole digital marketing space moves on so quickly as well. So what do you see as being the mistakes that bigger companies would make with digital marketing?
Not investing the time and resources into a proper digital strategy. And also, I think a lot of larger companies, and also just any type of company, they often are quite skeptical when it comes to investing the time and resources into specific branches of digital marketing. For example, investing in paid ads. A lot of companies and schools have experimented with ads in the past on Facebook, Google, etc. And usually they haven't worked. They've spent quite a bit of money. And so the result is, the conclusion is, this doesn't work for us. We'll never try it again. And that kind of, I guess, thinking is, kind of shooting themselves in the foot, because there is a lot of opportunity there. I'm not saying that running paid ads will transform your business and is the solution to everything, but it is an excellent channel to acquire good quality leads and enrollments for courses.
Okay, so you got some success and you liked it. Obviously, this is the thing for me, and you said, okay, how about if I move into this space? I'll be a digital marketing agency for schools. So that was 4 years ago. Is that right?
3 years ago.
3 years.
3 years ago.
Yeah. I should write these things down, really. Okay. I have to remember everything. Juggling. So 3 years ago, you started out just yourself, or did you have a partner at that time?
Me, myself, and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get clients then? So the proof of the pudding is, your own getting clients. So,
Of course, absolutely. So I started out quite organically, and this is also something I kind of uh, preach or tell people, especially people starting out with new businesses, is to, you need your proof of concept first. So reaching out via traditional ways, I did email marketing. I didn't do cold calling.
Never
My
again.
replacement,
Research,
no,
yeah.
never again. My replacement for cold calling was LinkedIn. And so I connected with all of the language school owners and marketers in the industry, or at least most of them, and I reached out to them. Got a lot of rejections, got a lot of people who didn't reply, but I also got a lot of people interested in finding out more and scheduling a call and basically doing sales calls, a lot of them.
Okay, so it's there's no substitute for just putting in the work.
Absolutely not. Yeah. And also, I invested a lot of time in organic content. So I posted quite a bit on LinkedIn with regards to paid ads for language schools, giving tips and strategies and examples, and built my email list from zero. So at the start, putting in the hard yards to make a name for yourself, really.
Okay, so before we, I have a lot of questions about email marketing, and of course, what they say here in Japan they call SNS, which is social media services. But so traditional forms of advertising, so things like newspapers, like mail shots, as in physical paper mail. Is there still a place for this type of advertising?
I think you can get better bang for your buck elsewhere, to be honest with you. Possibly for very specific use cases, but the clients that we work with, language schools, study abroad schools, online language schools, I don't see where they would profit unless it was to reach out to, say, agents, which I know that a lot of more traditional language schools, most of their business comes through agents. And sure, that makes sense to be in kind of industry magazines or publications. But direct to consumer, no.
Okay. That's how they do it in Japan still. You should see my mailbox every day with pizzas and property and schools and kumon. Yeah, but Japan is kind of different for these things.
It's very different. And sorry, I should have had a caveat there. There are some markets where it absolutely does work, where it's more traditional, and Japan is one of them. I think Korea is probably also another one. And possibly even Russia, although we've seen very good results with online campaigns in Russia.
Okay. Was that VK as well? Have you used, is it called VK, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the social platform that they use mostly, but we actually only run Facebook and Instagram ads in Russia successfully.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I think Japan is a little bit different. Some of the school owner meetings I've attended here before the whole COVID madness was about handing out flyers at stations, or in Japan they have little tissues with branding on them, if you remember. Because they have no towels or hand dryers in the toilets, do they? So you have to use the tissues. So that might be a little bit different. So okay, let's get started here about marketing. Social media marketing. Okay, I we'll mention email a little bit maybe later, but I have done email quite a bit on the other podcasts, so I do encourage you to listen to the other podcasts, especially Paul Salloway and Nicola Lutz as well, and of course Christina Rebuffet, who also related to marketing, advertising, some really good value there. So let's so you do Facebook. Do you do LinkedIn, Twitter as well? Is Facebook, Instagram mostly? What do you cover?
Facebook, Instagram, Google. That's basically it. Yeah.
Okay.
Very
And
specific.
Twitter, LinkedIn, why not?
Twitter, again, for the type of schools that we work with, Twitter hasn't really been an effective platform for us. Again, specific use cases, of course. Possibly more maybe a B2B setting could be good for Twitter, or if you are providing more of like a B2B service rather than a course. LinkedIn, you would think that LinkedIn would be a great way to reach out to business professionals looking for language courses, business English, medical English, things like that. We've just found it's too expensive. LinkedIn is really, really, really expensive.
Okay,
and so
just
you really
too expensive. But as regards, let's say, cost per acquisition, it's higher, but there is acquisition. You are able to manage to get.
Absolutely. You have to have a higher price product in order to warrant that higher acquisition cost. Gotcha. So if you're selling $100 product, then you're not going to make the numbers work on LinkedIn.
Okay, so maybe if you are selling a premium product, LinkedIn could be the way to go. Okay, that's some really good advice there for the listeners. Yeah. So so tell me about Facebook advertising. So I'll tell you a story actually before we get started. I saw this ad actually come up in my Facebook feed maybe about 6 months ago, and it's a pub in, is it in Cambridgeshire in England? And the name of the pub, I'm not embarrassing you, I hope, if you're the pub listening in, but it's unlikely. But the name of the pub is called the Pig and the Abbot. I love the English pub names, but it was coming up in my feed in Japan, and about 2 or 3 weeks ago also came up in the feed. And of course, the replies they got from a lot of people in Japan was very funny. It's like, oh, we'd love to go, but we have to 12-hour flight, and I don't think I can pop in on my way home on the Yamanote line or something like this.
Yeah, sure.
And then they replied and said the ad agency got it wrong, and I think it just focused on Japan. Yeah, but they was obviously spending a lot of money and on a market like that. So tell me about. That's obviously not a good way to spend your money or to target the ads.
Definitely not. No.
So what is a good way to target?
What is a good way to target? I mean, there are
so many ways around. I know there's so many routes to this answer. Yeah.
There are can be quite fiddly Facebook ads, and kind of understanding the algorithm, which changes constantly. And really it's all about finding that winning combination between audience, creative, and your offer. When it comes to targeting, you should have already done your research on your target audience. You should know the demographics, male, female, age, their interests, geographic location, and you can go into Facebook and then choose or set those targeting options. And obviously the ad agency for the pub made a fatal mistake by choosing Japan in the list of countries. Who knows how they did that, but they would have burnt a lot of money.
Absolutely. And so targeting as by interests, by age group, and also there's targeting the area. So if you have a school, maybe a bricks and mortar business, we'll talk about that first. What kind of radius would you look at? Would you just target, or would you target the feeder, let's say, area, the suburbs? And also, you can choose with Facebook ads whether to target people who live in the area or just travel to the area. That's confusing for a lot of people starting out.
It is confusing. I mean, it kind of depends on your business. If you are a local language school and, for example, you only run courses for people in your local area, then you only want to target a kind of certain radius from the point of your, brick and mortar school. That might be plus minus 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kilometers based on your experience as to how far would a potential customer, drive or commute to attend a course. And, that obviously differs if you're in a small town in the middle of the UK or you're in New York City. I can imagine the radius for New York City would be much smaller, probably only 1 kilometer, maybe 2 kilometers, compared to, say, just a more rural town.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That I didn't know about New York. I predicted that's what you would say, because it's very similar here in Tokyo. It's something we talked about with Peter Lackner on our second podcast, is that a lot of the brick and mortar schools here in Tokyo, they're within 10 minutes of the station, and even maybe 1-2 minutes of the station. If it's farther than 10 minutes, people don't tend to want to go. They'll go within the local area. But now there's a change from talking to Peter a few months back, is that with Corona, and for people with brick and mortar businesses, is that maybe they want to take lessons at their local station rather than in the city center when they're coming home. Have you found that as well? Is there a little bit of a change in, targeting? Or I suppose you'd have to up sticks, wouldn't you, your whole location, but maybe for schools in smaller towns, or what they call bed towns, suburban areas, maybe there's more potential to catch customers in the local area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So that radius has most definitely expanded, especially with most physical language schools going to online courses, online teaching, which of course opens up the market for you. I remember at the beginning that, more these local schools or brick and mortar schools are like, yes, we're online now, we can target the whole world. And I'm like, okay, what's your ad budget? And just because you're online, sure, it opens up the world to your language courses, but that's a surefire way of burning a lot of cash if you're going to invest in advertising. And so my kind of strategy and advice was for these schools is to slowly increase your radius to make sure that you're scaling, in a healthy way without, burning a lot of cash, targeting people in, other foreign countries who have no association with your school, and who are also getting targeted by 100,000 other language service providers, probably at a cheaper price. So you may as well leverage your reputation in your hometown, city, state, country, before expanding internationally.
That's actually, I saw it again today, that I occasionally get ads in my feed for in the Catholic Church, they call them vestments, wouldn't they? I think in the more Anglican, it's called what do they call surplices? The white garb that they put on Mass on Sundays. I keep getting, I get these ads occasionally, so I don't know why they're targeting me. I'm not a priest, so and I'm living in Japan. I don't know, and I don't post any religious stuff because I'm not so religious. So what's happening there?
Philip, you actually can find out why they are targeting you.
Okay.
So if you click on the ad, you're able to, there's an option on Facebook, why am I being targeted? And then it'll actually list some of the targeting options that they chose to target you. And then you'll be able to find out, oh, okay, maybe it's because of this, or maybe you like a certain page that's possibly affiliated with something like that. Facebook advertising has become quite transparent over the last couple of years with all of the privacy changes. You can basically see every single ad that every advertiser around the world is currently running, which is very fascinating.
That's a good point for people and maybe pick up some tips there. And also,
exactly.
The other thing, and I mean, this is kind of topical as we're speaking here. It's the 6th of October, 2021, and of course, over the past few days, Facebook has been very much in the news, haven't they? So,
they have.
Yeah. So, tell me your thoughts on what's happening with Facebook in the hearings and with the outage over the yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was Monday evening, at least European time. They were out for 6 hours. I mean, pretty much unprecedented, and it's actually quite scary that one company controls so many kind of communication channels. You know, it's not just Facebook; it's Instagram, it's Messenger, it's WhatsApp, and everyone felt that. Like, I mean, everyone that I know, at least, were like, oh, I can't message, I can't call people, I can't post anything, I can't run ads. So, I mean, it just goes to show how powerful Facebook is, and possibly even the need for alternative platforms, and also not to put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay. And so we'll go further with the another ad, actually, and the other one is they are listening to us, aren't they? I mean,
oh yeah,
it is definitely happening. I think the first time it happened to me, I think a lot of people have experienced this. We can recount stories, but I think it happened to me maybe last year. I was talking to someone I know, and he used to be an art teacher. I didn't know he was an art teacher, and I was saying, "Oh, did you wear a cravat in your classes?" It's a kind of not funny joke, but I started getting ads for cravats in my feed. When this happens, you're like, "Oh, this," I'm not Googling cravats, but
I know it's very scary. It really is scary. I remember also a couple of months ago, I was talking about traveling to South Korea, Seoul. With a friend. I didn't Google any flights, nothing. And then I got an ad for Lufthansa, Salzburg to Seoul. I mean, come on.
Yes, I know.
That was very scary. So yes, it is a scary world. And, there are a lot of memes about this where you think of something in bed, and then the next day you get an ad for it. I mean, pretty much what it is, and the algorithms have become so sophisticated these days, Google and Facebook, that they know what you want before you want it.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't actually seen these memes, but I often think to myself, I think it's reading my mind. We think that Facebook and these things because okay, we'll steer away from that. That's too creepy.
Yeah,
but maybe we shouldn't be ignoring it. But okay, so let's talk about the nuts and bolts of advertising on Facebook. So when you go in, you want to advertise, you can advertise. If you want to put up an ad, there's maybe 3 different ways you can put it, isn't there? There's like the ad manager, and then there's like another ad manager, which doesn't seem to look like that ad manager. And the only time you can see sometimes that you're running ads is with the app, isn't it? Sometimes some things are visible on one and not the other. And then people encounter, what kind of advertising? Should it be reach? Should it be clicks? Should it be shares? So talk us through that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there are so many steps and options before you can actually launch an ad, right? And the devil is in the details. And Facebook gives you so many options to choose from that it's confusing what to choose. So I would recommend, really, for anyone who is serious about running campaigns, to use Business Manager. So if you go to business.facebook.com, then you can create a Business Manager account where you will have your ads manager under that. And then you can also link your Facebook page and Instagram page all under this one umbrella, where you can manage everything in one place. And that's where you should create and manage your ads from as well. So you would go to Ads Manager, and then you would click on Create a Campaign. And the first thing you are confronted with is what type of campaign you want to run. And I think there are 11 different campaign objectives, from brand awareness, traffic engagement, lead generation, conversions, et cetera, et cetera. And which one do you pick, right? It can be very confusing because you would think, for example, oh, lead generation. That's exactly what I want. I want to generate free trials or free demo lessons, whatever that is. Or brand awareness, reach. I reach out to more people and tell them about my school, my brand. For, I would say, 90% of schools out there, you will probably only want one of two things from your advertising campaigns, either a lead or a purchase. So a lead can be someone filling out a contact form, a lead generation form, or scheduling a free lesson. And purchase is someone enrolling, registering, buying one of your courses or programs. That pretty much covers nearly everyone in this space. And so you want people to take a certain action. And that is why you should always use a conversion campaign rather than anything else. Because conversions campaigns are set up and optimized to get people, your likely audience, target market, to take that certain action that you want them to take.
Okay, so you heard it here. Conversion is the way to go. So we have the ad up. So what kind of ad? So we can have a display ad with a picture, logo. How much text should we have? Sometimes Facebook penalize you for having too much text, don't they? On an ad, they say, we'd prefer if you had like more picture than text. Or is a video ad the way to go? Or see what works in your market? Give me some ideas there about.
Sure. So actually, Facebook used to have a rule about 20% text on the ad. That rule no longer exists. So you can have as much text as you want. However, you don't want to have too much text. Running ads on Facebook and Instagram, these are social media platforms, and it's a person-to-person platform. And what do people want to see on a person-to-person social media platform? They want to see, really, they're on there to see photos of and videos of their friends and people they follow. So really, your creative, which we like to say, so your photo or the video that you use, should also reflect that. So it should look authentic. It should be of real people, if that's possible. So either of yourself as a language school owner, or possibly like an independent language teacher, a testimonial from a student or a parent, or possibly even one of your teachers. I mean, that is authentic. That is a real person. You're not using a stock image or stock video that anyone can get online. Video is the preferred choice. I mean, we see excellent results with static images, but everyone loves video, and you can really get your message across much quicker through a short video rather than through just a static image. So using video and taking the time to create those videos, because I know it can be quite daunting, especially for one-person businesses, being the face of your school or your company and having to record videos of yourself talking about your offer or your school.
Okay, so
but it's worth it.
Yeah, and I saw on LinkedIn, one of your posts talked about having subtitles on the video as well, because we don't always have the sound on.
Exactly. I think the statistic is over 80% of videos watched on Facebook and Instagram are viewed without sound. So if you are explaining your product or service, or if you have a testimonial video and you don't have subtitles, then your message is lost.
Okay, good point for everybody they're listening. So Okay, you put up the ad, whether that be an image, static image, or video, and it's out there, so it's launched. So, uh, Facebook says, "Oh, don't just put it up for one day, the minimum of 2 days." So, should you spread the budget out thinly over a month, a week? Of course, there's so many variables, so many different campaigns that we can run. But for someone, let's say in a smaller business in their local area, just giving this as a kind of case study in local. So should they put an ad and should it be at weekends? What time of the evening? What's to consider there?
So I wouldn't put too many like parameters in or when setting up your campaign, because you want to give Facebook's algorithm as much room to play around with. So you should really set up a campaign with no end date. You can always switch it off manually. Launch the campaign, have a good daily budget. I mean, I usually recommend at least $10 or €10, £10 per day for a campaign, just again to give Facebook enough a budget to work with. It's better to have a shorter campaign with to spend for example, like $500 within a short amount of time than on an elongated amount of time. So over like 4 or 5 months, you won't get any solid data because you're only spending like $2 a day. Whereas, it's better to spend $10 a day over 30 days so that you can collect as much data as possible to make decisions based on the data as to what is working, what's not working, and then you can make changes from there.
So, Herbert, you're very generous with your knowledge and time, and I'm not going to dig in too much. I mean, there's so many more questions because
Sure.
If people want to work with you, it's what's your email? It's Herbert at Herbert's.
It's hello at herbertgerzer.com.
Hello at herbertgerzer.com.
But just go to herbertgerzer.com.
Yeah, exactly. You can have a bespoke service, and you have a free 45-minute call. Is that right? Do you still offer that on your homepage?
I do. Yeah. To really find out the needs of the prospect and to see if we are a fit for them at their stage of their journey. So I always like to invest the time to find out more about people and their companies and their school and how they're set up before kind of offering a product that they might or might not need. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. So I want to go on to online in a little bit, but I want to talk about Instagram.
Oh,
and
yes.
The difference between Instagram and Facebook is, when we talk to people in their early 20s, teens, I mean, who uses Facebook in that age group? Not many. I don't know in Austria, but
not many.
Definitely here in Japan, there's, I don't know any 19, 20-year-olds that have Facebook accounts. So am I right in saying Instagram is for a younger market, or tell me about the considerations there for advertising on Instagram and Facebook and what you should do?
Sure. I mean, Instagram is, broadly it is a younger market, although there are a lot of 40, 50-year-olds on Instagram. It's like this
also young 40-year-olds,
right?
So, yeah.
Very young 40-year-olds, 40-year-olds that are still 20. So I love Instagram, and I think the charm of Instagram is because it's such a visual platform, and people are nosy by nature. They'd love to see what other people are doing, what they have on, kind of where they are at, and that's why Instagram is still booming. And it's an excellent platform to leverage.
Okay, good. And I want to go on to online. Now, I'm not going to ask you questions about transitioning your business from online to, or from bricks and mortar to online, but advertising for online. So we talked about, advertising in the local area, your customer avatar, demographic, time of day, and who your competitors are, let's say. But the online market, it's what we say, it's the Wild West, is it? A lot of companies, they think it's like it's free range. They can advertise to anybody. So if you're a language school in Austria, let's say, oh well, I can get customers in I don't know, I can get in Malaysia or in Indonesia or is
Anywhere.
that what's happening? Is that wise, or should it be along the same the same guidelines as advertising in local area? Or give me some ideas about that.
Sure. So definitely not just kind of willy-nilly choosing countries and being like, oh, we once had a student in Brazil. Let's target Brazil. Brazil is a massive market with their own peculiarities and needs and desires. So, I mean, what is better is to really, especially when you're going online, I mean, you don't want to just promote a general English course to everyone in the world. I mean, that's a surefire way of just like scrapping money. You need to define your niche. And even if you are offering general English courses, like who is your audience within that? It's not anyone who wants to learn English. It needs to be a specific segment of that market. And the more niche you can go, the better, because then you can craft your offer around the needs, the desires, the pain points of that specific niche, so that when you do your marketing, when you're promoting online, when you're creating your website or landing page, then you're using that wording that really calls them out. And so really defining your niche when it comes to online is absolutely crucial.
Okay. So with online, with the bricks and mortar business in the local area, you can say, oh, we do kids, businessmen, we'll do, we do exam prep. But when you're going online, you have to be laser focused.
Very, very, absolutely. So, for example, we worked with an exam prep provider for IELTS in Cambridge, brick and mortar in the UK, and then went online. Didn't have much success with the online campaign. So we came in and said, okay, tell us about your target audience and who your current students are. What do they look like? And a couple of patterns emerged. One was Spain, younger generation, kind of 19 to 25 university students that need the IELTS exam in order to get the university certificate. And so we created a campaign specifically for that market, for university students. And it makes it so much easier when you know exactly who they are, why they need it. Again, then we crafted videos around that. We got testimonial videos from a Spanish university student talking about their experience with the course. Much more effective than a general IELTS advertisement targeting anyone interested in IELTS.
Okay, excellent. We'll talk a little bit about success stories in a second. But so on your LinkedIn profile, you talked about landing pages as well. So we won't talk too much about landing pages because, as I said, we've kind of mentioned that before in previous episodes.
Sure.
But if you're giving your example, you're using your example of Spanish students. So you want to market to Spanish students for IELTS, for university prep. Should your landing page be in their own language? Should it be in Spanish? Should the testimonials be in Spanish? Should it be in English? Should it be in both?
Again, that depends. So for IELTS, we assume that the level of English for IELTS students or the people that we want to target is already at a high level. So it's fine to have the landing page and all the ads and all the marketing material in English, because that also acts as a filter as well. But if you are trying to target beginner students, A1 level, that's your niche, then of course, if you were trying to target Spain or Italy, you're going to have everything in their native language.
Okay, excellent advice there. So I want to talk about success stories that you've had.
Sure.
You don't have to give too much detail, but different size companies you dealt with, what their enrollment was before, what it was after, and what they learned along the way, and yeah.
Absolutely. I can go into detail with one of them, since they were on a podcast not too long ago. So,
by the way, Herbert, sorry for stopping you there, but your podcast, I forgot to mention your podcast there. We'll talk a little bit about that. But what's the name of your podcast?
Get More Students Podcast.
Okay, that should be easy to remember. Great name, by the way.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. And it's a good lesson in copywriting as well. That's exactly what people want, and call your podcast that. Sorry, go ahead with the example from
Sure.
the podcast.
So the English School of Canada in Toronto, quite a large English school, been around for over 20 years, and they're a very traditional language school. So before we started, this was in March or April 2020. So just as kind of COVID hit, and they went online. How are they going to market these new online programs? They had relied on agents for over 92% of their sales for over 20 years. Never done anything online, not one Facebook ad or Google ad or anything like that. And so we came in, we created campaigns in multiple languages to hit their core markets, which is Latin America, Brazil, Italy, and Russian-speaking countries. Their programs are quite high cost. A lot of them are pathway programs. We're talking $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So we were looking more at lead generation rather than a quick enrollment. And so over the course of the last year and a half, we have grown their direct sales from 2% pre-COVID to over 20%. Which is a huge transformation, and I love it because they were one of the schools that kind of went against the grain and said, all right, this has just happened, COVID. We are going to invest in a digital marketing strategy and get the word out. Whereas probably a lot of businesses and language schools, when that happened, they were like, cut expenses, cut marketing. This is not the time to spend money or invest in those kind of efforts. And the schools that did do that are really benefiting from that now.
That's exactly what a salesperson would say and would want to hear as well as a result, because during recessions, or what they call here in Japan, Lehman shock, or we call the financial crash, and being a salesperson at that time and talking to clients, the standard line was, actually, you should invest more marketing in a downturn. But in this case, that's what they did, and that was the result.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did it as well for my own business. I really pumped out the advertising and the content and the clients that we have as well. So, it's so counterintuitive, but it also makes sense. And another great thing was back in that period, April, May, June, July, it was very cheap to advertise because there were hardly any advertisers, and it was much easier to penetrate markets because less competition.
Okay, so you should have availed of that opportunity. But talk to me a little bit. I'll talk about the podcast in just one second, but I just want to talk about the iPhone issue with Facebook ads. What's happening there?
Right. So yeah, Apple came up with a new update for their operating system, iOS 14, with some new privacy changes, which meant that iOS users could opt out of being tracked, which makes it very difficult for advertisers, right? Especially for conversions, and to retarget people using Apple devices. We noticed quite a significant drop or a change in advertising costs and also the reach, which is why it's so important now. It's always been important to own your own data and to make sure that you're always building your email list, getting people to follow you on Instagram and Facebook, because then it's much easier to retarget people there rather than on their devices.
Okay, good point there. So tell me about the podcast. How long have you been running with the podcast?
Sure. I actually do the podcast together with Alex Asher, who is the CEO of LearnCube, a virtual learning software. And yeah, we started, I think, at the beginning of the year in March, April. And we talk about marketing ideas, strategies for language schools and tutoring companies. We also bring on some guests from language schools and tutoring companies, as well as some industry insiders to talk about how to get more students.
Okay, and I'll put a link in the show notes as well as Herbert's email address and his company URL as well. So this is something actually George Kokalas in Express Publishing. I did a podcast with him a few months back. I think it's actually coming out this weekend. And I was on the other side of the microphone for once, and. When I first started listening to podcasts and TV shows, the point I made to George was I thought the interviewer had the easier side, could just pose questions. But how do you find the difference between being an interviewee, being an interviewer? I find being an interviewer actually more difficult than...
Me too. To firstly come up with compelling questions and also to be, you have to adapt very quickly to whatever the interviewee responds. I definitely find it more challenging interviewing people.
Yeah, and I think that the point is you do get better. I think the first few is bad, and sometimes I listen to terrible. Some of them, and it's like getting
it's
a little
very
better.
Cringy.
Yeah, I know, but at least we can edit them ourselves to sound better. So thanks again to Herbert. So Herbert Gerzer, that's Gerzer, and it's www.herbertgerzer. I was going to say Herbert there. herbertgerzer.com. And you're on LinkedIn because I connected with you there after Nicola and sent a message, and we've kind of corresponded since then. And I presume you're on Instagram and Facebook, etc.
All the usual channels. Yeah. YouTube, yeah. Although I will say that I'm not too active on Instagram and Facebook, only because that's not where my audience is. For language schools, should be definitely kind of probably one of your main platforms. But for me, LinkedIn is more useful.
Okay. So thanks again, Herbert Gerzer.
Thank you for having me, Philip.
Thank you.
Catch you.
Thanks for listening to the EFL Magazine Business Podcast with Philip Pound. For more great advice and resources, check out eflmagazine.com. If you found this podcast helpful, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you next time.